answer some questions and hopefully provide you some a little bit of direction in where I believe we're going in this state as far as public safety is concerned. And it's something that I hope that we can engage more of our residents, our Riverside County residents in, and if we can get this this movement, this information, this knowledge gathering, if we can provide that to the rest of the state, whether it's via phone call or instant message or somehow social media, because unfortunately the media is not on our side, and it is actually promoting anti-public safety scenarios and visions and directions, and we are not, I believe that we in law enforcement and the public safety sectors are not doing a well enough job to keep you informed and let you know what we should be doing basically for a safe and secure environment in our communities. So what I really want to hit on, and I want all of you to know, and I want to say that I don't fault anyone for not understanding this and not knowing any of this, because I think that partially because of the media, but also because of our politicians, I think if everyone was honest, we would not be in this position that we're in. So over the last years, over the last 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, and maybe even further, but I'm only talking my specific knowledge of what I know has happened since 2007-ish. We are in a position in this state especially where our legislature, the makeup, the overall majority of our legislature has done nothing to promote public safety for you as residents. The bills, the laws that they pass, the bills that they introduce, the laws that they end up passing, and what the governors end up signing is not helping me be able to provide a better public safety for our residents. And actually, everything is going the exact opposite. And when you sit and think about how did this happen? How did those things happen? How were those propositions passed? How did we vote for that proposition? And it's unfortunately something where we have been misled, we have been lied to, and us as a law enforcement agency or as law enforcement officers or public safety units have not done enough to stand up and say, stop. This is not the direction we should be going. We are not being consulted when these laws are being thought up and argued and passed. And it's all about someone's emotional vision or emotional reaction to another event. And then we have laws that end up affecting all of us, whether we are supposed to be enforcing those laws or whether we are not supposed to be enforcing those laws. And it causes the position that we are in now. Now, where we are today, if anyone believes that we are not completely divided among political lines, I don't know where you are, but reach out to me and let me know where you are, because it is obvious that everything is about politics. Everything is about Republican and Democrat versus each other. And we've unfortunately gotten to a place where our government is strictly controlled by those two entities. And I honestly believe that us as a general public, we don't believe in either one of them. We don't necessarily 100% agree with either one of them. We are the middle, we are the majority, and we are being controlled by a certain few that we are electing to our government. And I believe it's sometimes because of a little bit of apathetic behavior, and apathy causes us to not really be concerned about where we're going. So back to public safety and my concern where we are right now, and what I think everyone should know, and where we can hopefully change this and make this better, is that the current makeup of our legislators, our legislative body, whether it's the Assembly or the Senate, is predominantly what I would consider anti-public safety. You would be very, very hard-pressed to go back to around 2007 and on and find, up until current day, and find a law that was passed, find a bill that was introduced that really had the overall best interests in the state of California's public safety, keeping us safe, helping law enforcement provide the community with a better law enforcement agency, with better public safety, with better safety. We have taken a path, our legislature is on an obvious path of decriminalization. Their way of solving crime is to make everything not a crime. And they did that with many of their bills, Prop 47, Prop 57, even if you want to get into the Prop 64 about the marijuana. This is all about decriminalizing everything. And when you decriminalize everything, there's no incentive to do the right thing. The crime rates obviously go down because things that used to be crimes yesterday are no longer crimes today. And then those same lawmakers will tout those statistics and say, look, crime has gone down. And look what we did. We did such a great job. Crime has gone down. The reality is, do any of you feel like crime has gone down? I will tell you, as a frontline law enforcement responder, crime is not down. Crime has been going up for the last decade, and there's no end in sight. Since over the last year with lockdowns and with COVID and with other issues that are going on with the election and riots and all those different things, we have seen a substantial increase in crime. The scary part is it's a substantial increase in violent crime. It's starting with property crimes, because property crimes aren't even crimes anymore. They've taken felony requirements and felony penalties and moved them to misdemeanors. And we all know that in California there is no, you suffer no consequence for a misdemeanor in the state, unfortunately. That has been the result of what our politicians in Sacramento have done to us. And it cannot be, I hope it is not. I hope it is not a coincidence to someone that we are suffering every year from a homeless population that is running out of control, from mental health issues that have run out of control. And why is not the media going back? It's easy to find these statistics. Why are they not going back to the implementations of Prop 47 and 57 and saying, look at what we did here. Look at what we did. We legalized and took away all the consequences for all of this drug use. We've marginalized drug use. We've mainstreamed it to where it's okay anymore if you want to go do drugs. But yet, now that I hope you all know also that drug use changes the chemistry of your brain, which is going to lead to mental health issues. So we are in a situation now where all of these homeless that we're dealing with, not only are they mentally ill, they're addicted to drugs. And there is absolutely nothing we can do to get them off it, because the legislature has taken away all of those consequences, all of those penalties. And they did it by deception and by lying, and convincing you to vote for these propositions by naming them things that you certainly would vote for. We certainly want education reform. We certainly want, reform is a good word. And by finding a reform or making it into a reform, we assume as good people that something is broken and we're going to make it right. And so when you say, I want to reform law enforcement, I'm all for that. I am all for making sure that we fix the things in law enforcement that are wrong. But unfortunately, the legislature's version of criminal justice reform is just letting all the criminals out of jail, taking away the consequence for bad behavior, making it so we no longer hold them in custody, or we cannot hold them in custody. It is a revolving door of us arresting them for something, letting them go immediately because the legislature has required it, and then when the penalty time comes around, there are no consequences. So there is no way for us to change that behavior. When you talk about drug use and you talk about, I want to throw something out there, because Prop 64, marijuana, legalizing marijuana, everybody, they convinced everyone that it was about medicine. That's how they got everyone to vote for it, that it's for medicinal use. Vote for the medicinal use. And we might as well vote for it, and it's going to bring tax revenue and everything else, and we sure love our tax revenue, so let's go ahead and vote for this. I don't have the statistics yet in 2020, but for 2019, for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, we had 19 officer-involved shootings that resulted in death of the suspect. Of those 19, 18 of them had marijuana in their system. 18 of those people had marijuana in their system. Some of them had multiple drugs: marijuana, methamphetamine, marijuana, cocaine, marijuana, alcohol. But almost 100% of those incidents involved marijuana. So you cannot tell me that marijuana does not influence your behavior, does not influence your thought process, does not influence your mental well-being to decide that you're going to harm people, cause people death, assault law enforcement officers, whatever it is you're going to do. Marijuana, I don't want to call it a gateway drug, but it's causing people to use other drugs in addition to that. And then when they took away all of the felony punishments for methamphetamines, cocaine, all of the narcotics, all of these stimulants, all of those things that we know cause mental health issues, psychosis, it's all mainstream now. And we wonder why we are in this position. It is because of the laws that are being passed by our state. And so one of the things that I want to talk about is it's very, very personal to me. Obviously, it affects me. Is over the last couple of years, there have been several sheriffs in the state that have been very, very vocal about the harm that these laws are doing, the decriminalization, the releasing of all of the inmates into our community. That affects me because I'm responsible for that. Forcing the counties to take back state prisoners or to house state prisoners because the state won't accept them anymore. Though that affects me, that affects my ability to keep you safe. So I have been very, very vocal. And I have been vocal against our government, against our governor. I want to make this very, very clear for everyone that is listening. I do not promote one political party over the other. It doesn't matter what political party I am. It doesn't matter what political party you may be from. I am talking about public safety. Your sheriffs, you have 58 of them in the state. We are all a nonpartisan election. It's a nonpartisan. We don't run as Democrats and Republicans. We run to keep you safe. We have a history. We have experience. We have all of that goes into us wanting to make a difference for our counties. And then we go to you and we ask you to put us in that position to provide you with that order of public safety. So when I talk about this, when I say something about the governor, I'm not saying about a Democrat. When I say it about the legislature, I'm not saying anything about Democrats. Unfortunately for us right now, or for that argument, our legislature is predominantly controlled by Democrats, and our governor happens to be a Democrat. So when I propose these arguments, it's very easy for anyone that supports our governor or that is involved in that anti-political difference. If you're a Democrat, you are just automatically against Republicans and everything that they say. So I get that sometimes what I say may be minimalized by the Democratic Party because it appears that it's a potential attack on a Democrat, when in reality, I'm sticking up for public safety. It could be a Republican in office that's doing all of these things, and I would still have the same opinion that public safety is being harmed. So in the last couple of years, I have been very, very vocal, and I have said that the government is hurting my ability to keep us safe. I have said that these policies are wrong. I have said that the press is not reporting these policies and they are misleading you as the general public to just let it keep happening. And apathy sometimes is a bad thing. It allows all of this to happen because we're not taking an active interest in what our elected officials are really doing to our state. And so how this affects me now is there have been a couple of other sheriffs that are doing and saying the same things I am. They're standing up to the governor saying you're doing the wrong thing. They're standing up to the assembly. They're standing up to the Senate and as a body. And they're saying this direction is harmful to public safety. So what we are finding now is, and it came to a head during the last year when we were all locked down with COVID and when businesses were closed and we were all ordered into our houses, and they came up with a policy or a provision or a directive from a health officer that if you did not stay in your house, if you didn't wear a mask, if you didn't close your business, you would be subject to arrest. And there were several very, very vocal sheriffs in the state. I will say that all of our sheriffs in the state, no one enforced those orders. No law enforcement agency enforced those orders because we know they are wrong. They this was not about a health issue anymore. This was about a control, locking healthy people in their homes. And as far as I'm concerned, they kind of found a workaround of what the law actually says, where quarantines, which basically what we were quarantined inside our homes. Quarantines are for sick people. They are not for healthy people. We cannot, our Constitution prevents the quarantining of healthy people. And so they found a little workaround, and they said that it wasn't really a quarantine. It was just a direct order for a health order that we were going to keep everyone safe. And the sheriffs that were vocal about it, I did not believe I should be making criminals out of business owners and criminals out of I use this example of single mothers that are trying to put food on the table for their kids or keep a roof over their house or over their heads. I could not make them criminals while at the same time the state was releasing all the criminals into the streets and back into our communities. Nothing just made sense. So bringing this up to the legislature and the governor made us enemies. It made us that antagonistic, you're standing in our way. We want to close all these businesses. We want to arrest everyone for not social distancing, not wearing masks. And they don't have control over us. So your sheriff, your elected sheriff, is the highest elected person in our county. Combine that with the district attorney. We are not political entities. We are public safety, law-oriented persons that are here elected by you to enforce that law, to protect us. And politicians don't have any say over my office, over the office of sheriff or the office of district attorney. And that's scary to a politician that wants control. If they want a political agenda, a political movement, or it doesn't even have to be political, we can just call it a personal movement or agenda, you have to have some type of control over law enforcement in order for that to affect the masses. And when you don't have that political control, you can't, it just doesn't happen. So what they have proposed in order to eliminate the power of the elected sheriff representing you, I represent all of you and what is best for public safety. In order for our government to take that away from you, they have made it to where there's a new assembly bill being passed, and me sitting here talking, I believe it's Assembly Bill 271, but it basically is saying that they are going to take away the requirements of sheriff. There will now be no requirement to be the sheriff. Anybody off the street can go ahead and run for the office of sheriff, and if you have enough political backing and you have enough political money, you will be elected because of apathetic voters, possibly, misleading campaigns, and they will be able to put a political entity in this office, in my office, which has absolutely no business being involved in politics. Politics has no position in law enforcement. And what is going to happen is they will be able to put people in office that will no longer abide by what is right, what is spelled out in our federal constitution, in our state constitution. It will be a political entity at the whim of whoever is in charge. That is the last thing that we need, not only in Riverside County, but this state and even this country. So I'm hoping that we stand up to that. To bring it a little bit more home, to show that this movement is 100% right on our doorstep, all we have to do is look to Los Angeles County. The easy thing for them to do was attack the district attorneys, because to be a district attorney, you just have to be an attorney. So with attorneys, we all know that there are prosecuting attorneys, there are defense attorneys, there are civil attorneys. Any of those attorneys can run for the office of district attorney, and they can lead that organization, which is charged in the prosecution of criminals. That's what they are there for. They are part of the public safety component that keeps us all safe. We run as equals. I have to do the grunt work basically, and then we put them in the court system, and the district attorney is responsible for making sure that they are either convicted or not convicted based on whether or not they're guilty, or whether we can prove that they were guilty. So what we have found in Los Angeles is that movement, taking away the district attorneys at one point, they were able to stand up to these laws that were being passed and say, we're not going to enforce those, that we are not going to charge people with that crime, and we're not going to prosecute them. They found an easy way to do that by politically getting someone elected to that office that will basically not enforce our laws, that will not prosecute for criminals that are violating our laws. All you have to do is look to Los Angeles. There is, I will say this as a law enforcement public safety professional, Gascon has absolutely no business being in the district attorney's office. He has come in and he has said he will not prosecute criminals. He will not prosecute enhancements. We have laws to put horrible, horrible criminals that victimize us, that victimize our communities, our kids, our elderly. We have a system of rules and laws that locks those people away and keeps them from harming us. We now have a district attorney in Los Angeles that is not going to do that anymore. He's not going to use gang enhancements. He's not going to use gun enhancements. He's not going to use prior conviction enhancements. And he is forcing the rest of all of his district attorneys to abide by his rules. That's how you get fired. If you're not going to abide by the person in charge's rules and procedures, you just won't be working there anymore. So we have essentially found the Los Angeles criminal justice system, the law enforcement arm is trying to do their job, but once they get to that court system, the district attorney's office is failing them because of the policies that are being put in place by Gascon. And what that emphasizes is if they put enough money into a campaign to mislead people, if they get enough charisma in a candidate, or if they get a name that just really is recognizable or stands out to someone, they're going to get these people elected that do not care about your public safety. They care about eliminating all criminals from prison. They just want to let them go. It's nothing about reform. It's nothing about rehabilitation. It's zero consequence. They don't want consequence for bad behavior. And we unfortunately have this right now in our own backyard, and now the move is going toward the sheriff's department. I don't believe that, and I believe that our legislature believes, that they cannot control actual elections currently, because law enforcement officers, in order for me to be your sheriff, I not only had to be a law enforcement officer, a sworn peace officer, I had to have not only the experience and the knowledge of how to do this job, but I had to have the education process of our job, which involves training, unbelievable amounts of training every year, unbelievable amounts of certifications that go into even being able to be promoted into higher ranks. But also I had to have the leadership ability to be able to get law enforcement, especially our agency, on a certain path. I laid out to the voters where I believed that I thought we should go with community-oriented policing, with attacking the problems in our communities that cause us to have anything. It's not about drugs, it's not about gangs, it's about quality of life issues. My belief is we should be providing quality of life issues. That's where law enforcement comes into, and we address those quality of life issues before they become major weight on the ability of the public to interact with each other or to behave in a lawful manner. So I proposed that to the masses, and I was elected to this office for that. So I ran against a person that, while we differed completely, we were still in that same position of where we thought that law enforcement should go. We both had the same, he had a little bit more experience than me, and I think that the difference was my experience was more modern. My experience was more recent, and I was more open to that engagement rather than the old way of doing something, which was, the police are always right, and we just go in and we tell you how we're going to do it. I believe that we should be answering to the public, that we just had differing views. But the commonality was we were both law enforcement professionals with the same experiences, the same trainings, the educations and belief of the management of law enforcement. And what we are finding is it would be very hard pressed for anyone to find a law enforcement professional that does not believe what I believe. We all want what is best for the law enforcement aspect of our organizations and for our communities. And that political arm cannot find someone to run against a sheriff like myself. I don't want to say they don't exist, but we all believe public safety is a priority, and we all believe that we should be answering to you as the public. And we all believe that criminals have no place running amok in our society and in our neighborhoods. We have to protect our kids. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect our businesses. We have to protect us as people as we're going about our normal everyday lives. And so the way around that is to now take away all of those requirements, take away my post requirements, take away my law enforcement experience and my law enforcement training that I have received from the state, and make it to where anyone can run for sheriff. And then when that person gets in, they act at the behest of those people that put them there. Right now, you put me in office. You had a clear choice of who to choose from, and you put me in office, and hopefully I'm answering that call of what I promised you I would do and what you have since asked me to do. And the problem with where the legislature has right now is I answer to you. I don't answer to them. And they're going to take that away and make this office political. And I hope that we all stand up to that. I hope that my suggestion or my hope for you to help me would be to call your local legislatures, whether it be assembly members or whether it be senators. Right now this bill is in the Senate, so that is the most important, to not even let it out of those committees and out of that house into the other house where our assembly sits. But you have to reach out to all of them. Reach out to your board of supervisors. Reach out to your city officials, and you tell them that law enforcement is the priority of government. We all know that government's number one priority is the public safety of our communities. That is it. What comes after that is the extra that we can move forward with helping with social programs. But social programs do not come first. Our public safety comes first. And I think that we are getting away from that a little bit with our current legislature. I think they want all social programs. They want, social justice. Those are not the things. Those are knee-jerk reactions to incidents rather than an overall momentum or overall solution to what some may see as a problem or what all of us see as a problem. And I think that attack on your sheriff's department, your ability to protect your right to elect your sheriff based on what you believe they've done in the past and what they will do in the future, it's being placed in the hand of politicians and money. The district attorney in Los Angeles, he won because he had more money, and he put more of an effort into really misleading people into voting for him. And now that he's in office, it's a disaster. It's a disaster for law enforcement. It's a disaster for you as a resident of Los Angeles. And we hope that never comes to Riverside County. We hope that we are able to get that message out to you that we can't let that happen. We have to draw a line. We have to start standing up for what's right. We have to start standing up for what's right for all, not what's right for a few based on a personal belief or a personal political movement. It's about what's right for Riverside County, what's right for the state of California, and that's what we need to be pushing on. And for those of you, if you're in Riverside County and you're watching this and listening to this, if you have friends in other counties, I encourage you to tell them to reach out to their board members, to their assembly people, to their senators, and get them to say no to this attack on sheriffs, because if they are successful, once that happens, and now your law enforcement is completely political, can you imagine what's going to happen? I probably talked too much.
No. This is beautiful. No, this is perfect. Okay. You just go.
Okay. So I hope that we're able to stand up to these politicians and make sure that you remind them that they do not report to special interests. They do not report to one person or one incident or even just an opinion. They don't report to opinions. They report to you as the masses of who vote for that person. So Riverside County, I report to you. I want you to reach out to me and I want you to tell me your concerns. Don't reach out to the Board of Supervisors. They don't control me. Thankfully, they are a nonpartisan office, but they don't have input in what I do to protect us in Riverside County. You do. So you need to reach out to me so I know what issues are, and we cannot have Sacramento telling you what your issues are in Riverside County and what will be enforced and what won't be enforced. It has to be up to you. And this attack on our sheriffs is one major wall that is in front of a political movement that is about control. And right now, they cannot control Riverside County, whether it be with restraints or maybe an unconstitutional law, because we as a sheriff, I'm here with a promise to you and an oath that I took to uphold that state constitution and that national our federal constitution. So I'm hoping that you'll stand with us in public safety, in the district attorney's office, and I hope that that our safety, the safety of Riverside County residents, is important enough to all of us that we stand up and be heard. Because right now, I think that that what is happening is a small group of people are bombarding our lawmakers with their own personal opinions or their own personal agenda, their own special interest. And if that's all that politician, that lawmaker is hearing, that's what they're going to make them go away. They're going to appease them. And then us as the masses end up suffering those consequences. Make absolutely no mistake, California is in the position that we are, partly and mostly because of Prop 47 and Prop 57. We had a chance last year with a proposition to fix some of the major wrongs in those propositions, and it was voted down by the general public. A common sense fixes to what was caused by Prop 47 and Prop 57. Violent crimes, the rape of an unconscious woman in California law right now is not considered violent. Tell me how that makes sense. But yet, that proposition, the fix on the last election, failed. We could have made those fixes. And I'm telling you that the media and your legislative body is misleading you on their own political agenda, and you're voting for these things not knowing, and it's not that you're not being informed. I think some people are trying to inform themselves, but even when I tried to research those propositions, knowing what they were, knowing the way it should have voted, when you start reading about things, you're fed with misinformation, with facts that are not true. And this new bill with the sheriffs, the pros of what they're saying, why this has to happen, they are completely misrepresenting the past. They are misrepresenting fact. They are. If you're going to ask me, I'm telling you that they are lying to you, but it may be something more, less sinister, like just misleading. But for me, in law enforcement, honor, integrity, honesty, it's just a lie. We're being lied to by the media and our politicians, and then they put it in front of a vote, and we vote for it, and then we're all to blame for it because we were able to be misled. So I'm hoping that we pay more attention in the future. I'm hoping that the disastrous things that are happening in Los Angeles right now don't happen in Riverside. And I will do everything. I will give my life to protect us in Riverside County. I'm just asking you to help me now with our politicians, and we need to stand up to them, and we need to make sure that this doesn't take place with them politicizing the office of sheriff. What I want to talk about now is what I have experienced over my 28 years of law enforcement, and where I have seen our state going with our laws and with our lack of laws and with our laws that are backwards. And I want to paint you a picture here of how I believe this happened. One of the most horrific crimes that I can imagine is child abuse, whether it be physical or sexual child abuse. And in that world, in the law enforcement world of us prosecuting these criminals, arresting these criminals, and identifying them, there is a term called grooming. And grooming is where that pedophile, that criminal is grooming those kids to believe something that isn't necessarily true. They're convincing them, they're taking them from stranger to savior, and they're making all of those things that they are doing to them or going to do to them okay. And they're starting with, oh, hey, I'm here for you, and we're going to be friends, and then I'm going to find a gap that you're missing in your life, whether it be a father figure or a mother figure or whatever that case may be. Friends, I'm going to be your best friend. I'm going to be, the person that loves you and takes care of you. That is a grooming process that leads up to the actual act of sexual abuse, physical abuse, whatever the case may be. So that child is groomed because we sometimes wonder, how did that happen? Why did that child not tell someone? They knew that was wrong, or maybe they should have known that was wrong. How did it happen? They were groomed. They were led down a path, and they were convinced of something that wasn't a reality. And I'm going to now take that horrible thing and move that into where we are with our current legislature, with how it's been over the last 5, 10, 15, 28 years that I've been aware of, and how we are getting to the point where all of these things are happening, where it's okay now to just release all the inmates from prison back into our society. It's okay to arrest somebody and have them immediately in one door and out the other door in the jail back into society. It's okay for someone to beat up their wife, go to jail, and be home within 4 hours to do it again. It's okay for someone to do those things because we've been groomed into believing that that's how it should be. We've been groomed to believe that the police are the bad guys. We've been groomed to believe that all we do is we're victimizing people by arresting them for no reason at all. And all of these criminals, we are being told, aren't really criminals. They're now criminally justice involved. Our legislature has taken away words that we know. They don't use the word criminal anymore. They don't use the word parolee. They don't use the word felon. They have made nice, pretty little names that sound really nice and sweet. So you all believe, that we all believe, these people are no longer criminals. In the end, they are criminals. They are criminals that are routinely, over and over, victimizing us as a general public. They keep me in business. That is who I deal with every single day, is I am coming out to you as a victim, and I am trying to find out who victimized you, arrest them, find the evidence for that crime, put them into custody, turn it over to a district attorney in the court system so they can prosecute them. And we are being told now, and we are being groomed to believe that all of that is false, that criminals are the victims, criminals should be taken care of, criminals should be let out of jail because it was all about the racist police that put them there, or it was faulty police work. And we are being groomed to believe that you don't have a professional law enforcement organization, that you don't have professional policemen, that you don't have professional sheriffs. And we just believe it. The media is pushing that on us. So some of the things where I want to tell you how we've gotten to this point. I talked about Prop 47, Prop 57. Some of the provisions in that we have made where it used to be a felony to, if you stole property, someone else's property that was over $450, over $400, it's over $400, that was a felony. Difference between a felony and a misdemeanor is just the punishment level. A felony, you're punished by imprisonment in state prison. A misdemeanor, you're punished by imprisonment in county jail. That's how, throughout history, that's how it's always been. If you commit minor crimes, you go to local jail. You commit those major crimes, you're going to go to state prison for longer periods of time. That's how our justice system has worked. So that's what they want changed. That's how they're changing it. So rather than keep it the way it was with overpopulation of prisons, because as our state population grows and grows and grows and grows, I hope you all can see that the small portion of the population that are just criminals, we will never change them from being criminals, some of them. Some of them rehabilitate themselves, some of them we are able to rehabilitate them, some of them realize the error of their ways, they want a better life, they don't want to be incarcerated, so they fix themselves. But there are some that will just always be criminals. And as your population grows, that small population also grows. So you would assume, common sense will tell you that as the population of California grows, we must grow the size of our correctional institutions to house those criminals. California, for many years, refused to build any more prisons. They didn't want to lock people into prison. They refused to build jails. And so now we're in a position where our population has exploded, and the ability for us to house violent criminals is very small. So the overpopulation happens because now we're crowding people in buildings that weren't necessarily made for that number of people, and then you have lawsuits that say that we're violating their rights for whatever reason, and then we have to comply with those. So the state, in its not so much wisdom, has decided that they're just going to, rather than build new prisons to fix that population, they're just going to let them all out of jail. Let them all out of prison, let them go back into society to victimize you, and then they're going to stand up in front of you and say, look how great I am, that over my tenure, I reduced the prison population. They're not going to tell you how they did it. The media is not going to tell you how they did it. It's up to me to tell you how they did it, and hopefully you believe me when I tell you that I am being hurt right now by state prisoners being released into Riverside County that now I have to police. I am being hurt by my jail population that is supposed to be meant for low-level offenders, that is nothing now but state prison inmates. They all should be in state prison, and it just doesn't happen anymore. So one of those things was $400 worth of merchandise. If you stole that, if it was above $400, that made it a felony, and you would be charged with a felony. They changed that from $400 to $950. What we're seeing is we have criminals that really are relatively intelligent, and they will go into a store now, and they will steal. The first thing they'll steal is a calculator, and then they will walk around adding up the number, the dollar amount of the things that they're stealing, and keep it right under that $950 threshold, which is now a felony. And when we arrest them, they tell us that we can't arrest them because they're under $950. Here's my calculator, I'm showing you it's under $950, add it up. And they tell us that you have to cite release me. I know the rules, I know my rights. You have to cite release me because it's a misdemeanor. You can't charge me with a felony because it's $940, not $950. And that's what we're dealing with right now. And it's making our job almost impossible to do, because the reality of law enforcement right now for the majority of the state is that there are no consequence for misdemeanor crimes. If you get if you're convicted or if you're arrested for a misdemeanor, you will probably get a citation released right there at the scene, and you have to appear in court. If you don't appear in court, that's another misdemeanor violation for failure to appear. And if I contact you with that warrant, I can't take you into custody. So I have to give you another citation. You failed to appear, I have to give you another one. I hope you can all see that this is we're coming across people that have 10, 20, 30 failure to appear misdemeanor warrants, and we can do nothing about them because we can't house misdemeanors when I'm housing 3,500 felons that are in custody because they're seriously harming, not just stealing, they're harming, physically harming our residents. And so you can see where the pressure that's put on me of how I keep people in jail and who I'm going to keep in jail. And then I also want to expand it with drug use. Drug use used to always be a felony. If you used drugs, it was a misdemeanor. If you're under the influence of methamphetamine, cocaine, the narcotics, the stimulants, those types of illegal substances, it was a misdemeanor. But if you had it in your possession, that was a felony. The state has taken all of that away. It is now all a misdemeanor. So basically what that entails is you will no longer be arrested and taken to jail for those drug crimes, for possessions, for sales, those types of things, unless it's just an astronomical amount. So what is happening here is, and I'm going to relate this to Prop 4757, the passages of those propositions, and how it has directly contributed to what you see today when you walk downtown and you see nothing but homeless and sleeping on the sidewalks, and your businesses are being destroyed by people sleeping in your alcoves in your businesses and in your front door, stopping clients or customers from coming inside. Back when I was a patrol deputy in the 90s, in the early 2000s, if you were arrested for drug possession, we sent you to jail, and the judge was able to say, this is your option. You are either going to go to state prison for this felony, for this felon drug possession, you're going to go to prison, or you're going to go to rehab. Well, what would be the normal thing that anyone would take? Do you want to go sit in prison, or do you want to go to drug rehab and get let back out? Of course you go to drug rehab. The beauty of that is we had teeth in those laws. We had teeth in arresting them, and we had teeth to make them get help. We would send them to those rehab programs. We would either take them there, they would have to be transported from jail to that facility by the facility. There was a mechanism in place for us to force people to get help that didn't want to help themselves. And it worked. Not 100%, but what it did was those people that may have been just down a path that it got too carried away, and now we got them sober, now we got them treatment, now we got them in programs that could help them, their lives changed and they never went back. Those are the ones that we hope, that we know we can save, we know we can fix, and that's what we're here for. Then you have the others that maybe they were on the wagon for only a week, or for only a month, or for 6 months, or for a year, and then they went back on. When they came back into custody, we offered them the same thing again. Do you want to go to prison, or do you want to go back into rehab? And they took the rehab. And the ones that when it got so bad, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, then maybe it was okay, you're not learning, now you're going to go to prison. What the media and what the criminal proponents want you all to believe is that we were just throwing people in jail left and right and in prison left and right, imprisonating all these people because they had a drug problem. That is not the case. That was a lie. You were all lied to. You were all misled. And we, as a public, voted for these propositions that have now taken all the teeth away of getting these people help and getting them fixed. And now we have a major, major homeless issue that if you go back to 2007 and you look at the numbers on how they have progressively gotten worse and worse and worse and worse, it is directly related to that mental health issue that we're calling it now. We don't want to call it drug issue because it's like a Band-Aid. You know, if every morning you wake up and you have a big hole in your arm, and you just put a couple stitches in it and you go on about your day, and then the next morning you wake up and there's another hole in your arm and you just put stitches in it and you go on about your day, eventually you're going to have to take away that big knife that's putting the hole in your arm. And that's what we're not doing. That's what we're not addressing. We're not addressing the root cause. We're addressing symptoms. And by taking away that ability to do that, we are causing the homeless problem. We are causing what we are seeing with the mental health issues. It didn't start a mental health issue. You didn't just walk down the street and all of a sudden, you know, if for those of you listening, I guess maybe it could be, some doctor could say it's a possibility, but the chance of you walking out your house this afternoon and all of a sudden walking through the threshold of your front door and now you have a mental health issue is probably not going to happen. Now, there are things that as we go through life, things that triggers and maybe some deficiencies that we need to address and chemical imbalances, yes. But the majority of what we are seeing with homeless and mental health issues is drug caused. It's drug abuse caused. And we have taken away our ability to fix that because of the laws that our legislatures are passing. So there's so many more I can talk about. One thing that for Riverside County, that hits very, very, very close to home because it just happened. Now, what we are finding, take it back now to the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic and the rules and the laws that were changed and things that happened. The legislature passed some laws, they attempted to pass some other laws that thankfully didn't work, that were all politically agenda-driven items, but they were thrown out at us under the guise of public health and above COVID, helping with COVID and everything else. And one of those things wasn't actually a law, it was our governor. Now, our governor has made it very, very clear, really his whole political career, that he doesn't believe in incarceration and he doesn't believe in prisons. He's made it one of his platforms was he was going to close prisons. So the pandemic happens, and I would hope that he would have enough integrity to say that he did not use this pandemic to further his own agenda, but we all know that he did. When the pandemic happened and inmates started getting COVID, rather than treat them in prison, which that's what I did in jail, I released not one inmate from Riverside County Jail because of COVID. If they got COVID, we treated them. We made arrangements in jail to protect them with cleaning and with masks and the things that we should have done. Everyone should have done that. The majority of our state, county facilities, county jails did that. The state prisons didn't do that. They did later on, but they did nothing in the beginning to try and combat it. And then what they did is they said, oh, we're so overcrowded and it's so dangerous for these criminals to get COVID, even though now we know that 99.95% of them were going to be perfectly fine. They took it upon themselves to just release thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of inmates back into our communities, and they did it under the guise of protecting them from the COVID virus. When they did that, he lowered the population low enough, the prison population low enough, that now he's closed a prison. What we all know is, once you close something, it will never open again, because those buildings were built in, not only is our legislature not going to fund it because they don't believe in that anyway, but those buildings were built under certain regulations. In order to, once you close it and shutter it, to reopen it, you have to bring it up to the current building codes, to current regulations and rules, and that will cost billions and billions and billions of dollars. So once a prison is closed, it's done. It's not going to be opened again, and this virus has been used as a tool to promote that agenda of lowering the prison populations at the expense of our county jails and at the expense of my availability to handle the influx of rising crime in our communities and keeping those in jail. So there have been since COVID, there have been 3 officer-involved shootings, deputy-involved shootings, and I'm combining them because some were police officers and some were my deputies, that were involved in shootings in the last year since COVID has started with inmates that had been out of jail less than a week, that normally would not have been released. They should have been in custody, but because of COVID, because of rules forced upon us by the governor, by the court system at the direction of the governor, we were forced to release these people. The one most recently is the poor woman here in Riverside that was out enjoying a beautiful day, walking her dogs, and was attacked and murdered by a young woman who was mentally and drug-induced psychosis that was arrested for assaulting someone the day before. Because of this zero bail policy that your legislature is trying to make into the law of the land, right now they have imposed that. The governor forced the judicial system to impose a zero bail policy. So most crimes right now, you don't have to post bail. You get booked into jail and it's automatically, because of COVID again, you're going to be released. That was the case from this woman. She assaulted someone. It was an assault with a deadly weapon. That's a zero bail. She was booked into jail. We had to let her go because we're forced by the courts. She got out of jail. She went down the street and she murdered this woman. She was under the influence, more than likely. We'll get the toxicology back shortly. But she has mental issues. She's in her early 20s. She has mental issues because of years of drug abuse. So does she have mental issues, or does she have some type of psychosis, drug-induced psychosis, that's causing the problem? Had it been in the past, she was also recently arrested for drug possession. If she had been given that ultimatum of, do you want to go to prison or do you want to go to rehab, we may have been able to save her from that drug abuse, at least for a certain period of time, certainly long enough that this senseless murder of this woman walking her dogs would not have happened. But that is the situation that we are being placed in right now by current politics, by current agendas, that goes back to what I said in the beginning. This is about public safety. And our government is not currently in the business of making sure that Riverside County residents and the state of California residents are getting the best public safety that they possibly could. We are more interested that not we, and I don't want to be ever labeled that. Our government system is more interested in letting people go and decriminalization than they are about the rest of us law-abiding citizens, that every single day we are doing everything we can to better our lives, better the lives of our neighbors, better the lives of our kids, and our government is only caring about those criminals that are now in custody, and they just want them out. They want no consequence. They want no deterrent. It's your fault. It's your fault they are criminals, or criminally, they're members of the criminal justice system, or they are formally incarcerated or formally criminally justice involved. That's another good one that I like. In the end, they're criminals. They are caring about the criminals more than they are about you. And the media and our government officials have been spending years and years and years grooming you to believe that this is okay, that this is needed. And it's unfortunately, we've had the wool pulled over our eyes, and we need to stand up and we need to make sure that they're fixing it. We need a governor that's going to stand up for what's right for law-abiding residents in our state. We need local government officials that are going to do the same locally. And we really need to go back to what the number one priority of our government is, and that's providing public safety. That is, whether it's federal or whether it's state, the number one role of government is to provide for public safety and then infrastructure. It has nothing to do with politics. So hopefully we as a law-abiding public are going to stand up now and let our voices be heard, let them be heard loudly, let them be heard often, and hopefully we can get this turned around before it gets to a place where we've gone so far over the cliff that there's no turning back. I want to thank Carla. I want to thank you for this opportunity to hopefully be able to express my concerns and the fears that I have with the issues that are going on right now, and the direction that we're going, and how it's making it harder for me to be able to do my job, to be able to protect you. That's my number one goal right now in life, is to provide the best public service and the best safety for the residents of Riverside County. And it's easy to fix things internally that I know that need to be made better, that need to be made whole, or how we can adjust to interact better with certain segments of our community, or certain different communities are obviously, some cities are different than other cities. But when when I'm up against a wall to where I've exhausted all of my internal possibilities because our lawmakers are not in the same business as I am, and they're not on the same page and not in the same direction as what I believe we all should be concerned about, our businesses. We can't have a thriving community if we don't have businesses, if we don't have people moving into our communities that want to live there. And if we are not able to have that, the reason why is we're not able to protect you. We're not able to protect our businesses and keep them open. We're not able to protect your houses, your homes, your kids, your parents. And when that happens, we no longer have that productive society, that productive environment that we are able to function as a society as a whole. So public safety is that common ground base that we have to be able to build on everything else. And I'm hoping that by me bringing this up, by me showing you that our legislature and our assembly and our Senate, our California legislature might not be on the same page as the majority of us. And they are in the business of confusing you or misleading you with words and with the way they phrase something. And it's very important to get into the weeds on all of these issues, not on what they call something, because we all want reform. We all want justice. We all want safe streets. Safe Streets was one of the old initiatives that they named a proposition that completely eliminated all of crime. It made everything no longer a crime, and people were able to get out of prison, and we called that Safe Streets because everybody wants safe streets. Everybody wants that. And so it's easy to get behind when you mislead by the choice of words. So I'm hoping that I don't want you to believe everything I say. I want you to verify it, and I'm not afraid of you verifying it because I know I'm not misleading you. I know I'm not being dishonest to you. I want you to do that same thing to the rest of your elected officials, because what you're going to find is the truth always has an answer. I will always give you an answer, and I am always willing to answer any question you pose at me. When you have a politician or you have an elected official that wants to know the questions beforehand, or only will take certain questions that they already know the answer to, they're misleading you. They're not being honest with you. And I hope that we as a society, we as Riverside County residents particularly, because that's what's concerning to us immediately, but we need to take this to the next county, and to our entire state. We need to make sure that we're all on the same page of honesty, integrity, and doing what's right for the masses of the state. And our number one priority has to be public safety. And what I want you all to do, if I can impress upon everyone to prove to you that this is not Republican, this is not Democrat, Independent. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. What I want you to do, if you are a Republican or a Democrat, and you support the same party person for whatever elected office they are in, if, for instance, and I will throw out Democrat, if you're a Democrat and you supported a local politician that is a Democrat, I want you to call them up and I want you to demand that they vocally stand up for your public safety, that they stand behind public safety, that they stand behind the sheriff's ability to keep you safe. They are either going to be, and they're going to lie to you. They're going to misrepresent what this bill to change the sheriff's eligibility, they're going to misrepresent to you what that it even is. And this is how I'm going to tell you they're going to do it. They're going to tell you that sheriffs are all racist. And we don't have enough representation of all races. They're going to throw race into it because that's an easy way for you to back down and not ask those questions anymore. It's nobody wants to be labeled a racist. Nobody wants to be called any type of defamatory name. And so we avoid it at all costs. We avoid that confrontation. And whenever someone is throwing that out to you as a reason why, I want you to seriously look into that and say, maybe they're not being honest, because this is what I will tell you. There is not, and I don't care how many people raise their eyebrows out there, there is not a racist bone in my body. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what nationality you are, what sex you are. I like good people. I believe in my line of work, I believe in good people and bad people. And that's really all I see. You're either a good law-abiding resident in Riverside County, or you're that small part of the population that causes me to have job security. And that's really all it is. And if someone is accusing me, telling you that they need to support this bill because sheriffs are racist, they're not being honest with you. And this is a political grab. And I want you to make them verbally stand up to protecting our sheriffs, not taking away the powers that you have to elect that sheriff that you want. Again, I thank you. I thank you for this opportunity. I probably look forward to follow-up interviews and follow-up ways for me to hopefully get my point across and educate a little bit on the public safety environment, what we're dealing with in Riverside County and this state. So thank you very much. So I recently, during the talk that I have been given, the information that I've put out, I've mentioned the word race and racism and everything else that goes along with that. I hope that all of us can stand up and say that we will not tolerate racism. Racism has absolutely zero place in our society. It has absolutely zero place in law enforcement. And I hope that all of us believe that same thing, and we are standing together, that racism has no part in law enforcement or our society. So what I want to, I mentioned that that race gets thrown out there, and the systemic racism, and these words that are meant to inflame, and where I said words are important. That is racism is something that we unfortunately can't control in every single person. Are there individual racists out there that look at somebody different based on how they look and maybe even how they act? Yes, of course there are. Is it a organization as a whole? No, it is not. And over the past year, we were involved in a lot of racial tension and issues that were, in my opinion, that were propped up and maybe even pushed more forward because of the media, because of maybe even another political agenda. And what I want, I'm talking to Riverside County residents right now, and I am telling you that there is not a systemic racism problem within your law enforcement organizations. I am very well acquainted and friends with every single police chief in our county. We believe that we have a great grasp on our departments and the direction that we were going. And while there may be one person, 2 people, 10 people, maybe there's 20 that we actually have within our ranks in the 10,000 law enforcement officers in Riverside County, there may be some that have some type of racial bias or something is they're operating under something racial. And this is what I'm going to promise you. The rest of law enforcement, including all of your heads of your agencies and myself, when we identify them, we will fire them. They have absolutely zero place in our organization. And what I want all of you to believe, and what I want all of you to get behind me with, is what you see on social media clips, what you see on instances that are happening in the rest of the country. Do not equate that to your Riverside County law enforcement. That was not us. If something happens with us and we do not address it, then I guess I have to give you carte blanche to address and do whatever it is that you want and voice your concerns. But right now, we all should be standing together, and we should all be standing against racism. And I believe that this push of labeling people as racists and calling each other racists and bringing race into the mix is nothing but a divide from stopping us from all being a whole. We cannot be a whole if we're so quick to point at another person and label them as something else. And we all know it's wrong. We have that belief. We have that commonality, and we all need to be working to get rid of it. So what you see from a different place in the country, especially right now, what happens in other cities, what happens in other places, I want you to know that that is not your law enforcement agency. Don't brand me as being someone else, the same as you do not want law enforcement branding you based on where you live or what color your skin is or what country you came from. That doesn't make you a criminal any more than it makes me a racist because you believe somebody else in another state is a racist. So we all owe that each other that common courtesy, and we're all working to a better Riverside County. And I hope that we're able to get to that point.